Hello, everyone, and welcome to Osquery Office Hours. It is October 22nd here in New England. I have lots of red leaves outside. I hope the weather is good where everyone else is. Looks like a smallish group today, so we'll see how we go, but welcome, everyone. Let's see. Announcements. We cut 5.14.1. So go us. We have a release. That's all my announcements. Other people have anything? Okay. Next section of our meeting is sort of an open section for questions, issues, PRs, anything people want to bring up that maybe they weren't comfortable making into a real agenda item. Okay. Well, moving to agenda items. So the first one is the 5.14.1 release. We made it. Stefano and I did a lot of last-minute CI nonsense to get this to pass. One issue is around the HTTP server. It's slow to start. I assume Stefano understands that. I don't. I think there's some PRs in flight.
Not completely, or not really. Meaning, I know that it's the Python HTTP server we use for testing that is slow to start. I mean, I did a couple of tests also, thanks to a suggestion by Mike to try to remove the change localhost to the numeric version to exclude DNS issues. Although I'm not 100% sure if, given that it's using setting up TLS and using certificates, maybe it's still doing some DNS calls anyway in the background while starting. But yeah, I have not looked into it closely, tracing what it's doing and where it's hanging and so on. So currently, the only workaround we have is to try to understand and wait for when the service is actually ready to serve.
It's a little opaque, I think, but if I read the logs correctly on the CI, it looks like from the time that the native code launches the Python script to the point where the Python script is listening, like for connections, is the 40-second wait or 35-second wait. That shouldn't be, it should be less than a second, but there's a lot happening between those 2 points. Like it's starting the Python interpreter, it's starting the class that listens for the HTTP server class object. Any one of those could be the long pole intent, but I guess the theories that I had probably aren't correct because it didn't replicate in a VM on the local Stefano's local machine. So that means that it's probably the environment of the CI runner that's the difference. And I think maybe there was a 15.0.1 bug fix patch that they didn't apply according to Stefano, but we can't control that. So we might wait for that and see if it helps. But I think that was related to the firewall, right? Maybe Charbel remembers exactly. Was it the firewall change?
That was related to the local network permissions pop-up.
So that would imply that not a delay, but like a denial of
yeah,
service.
essentially it's waiting for someone to click allow, kind of.
But it wouldn't just allow after a timeout.
I
probably.
don't know about that. Yeah, probably not. Or maybe there's a fallback where it happens, but I'll...
So, I mean, we could wait until they patch, but I think if you add a couple of more debug statements, and maybe if there's a way to turn on additional debugging in CPython so that we get like a little bit more of a trace of what it did when we told it to start, then maybe we'd get some more insight onto this. But it
Yeah,
has to
and
be
we
run
can-
in the CI. So
We also should also print out like what Python dependencies we use. Maybe if it's like a dependency issue that doesn't work in Sequoia. But 15.1 RC got released yesterday, so
okay. Well, I mean, this issue is
GitHub runner.
it's part of the C Python, so I guess it's like standard
Oh,
Python. It's
got
just it's like it's not for production, but it's an HTTP server that they ship in their standard library that you can use for testing. And so there's not a dependency involved, I don't think, but we could always eliminate those kinds of things in a simplified test to see if the startup time is the same. But yeah, I do think we have to take some action rather than wait for it to just fix itself.
Yeah.
Sorry, was that the question? Or
No, I just that was
Oh.
my assessment, is that
Assessment,
probably
yeah.
we have
We
to
need to do something.
Yeah, we just have to simplify the test, try to rule out some more things, and reproduce it in a simplified case. But it has to be done on the CI apparently, which is annoying.
I mean, right now it doesn't create issues due to the, like, to be fair, waiting to be sure that the server is up before starting the test, like it's really up and ready to serve. It's still a valuable test. And I mean, at this point, it's mostly a nuisance that it's adding 30 to 40 seconds to the tests. Not that I'm not saying that we shouldn't still understand what's happening.
Yeah, so I guess
but
you could say it's not a high priority, but I guess it's adding about 40 seconds to like an 8.5 minute test run. I think.
Well, I think anything you twiddle in the PRs should get tested in the PR CI runs. So if anyone wanted to add debugging or trace calls or whatever, I think there's rope.
Did I see a conversation about the PRs like clogging up the CI? We have a concurrency limit.
So we have a concurrency. We do have a concurrency limit. The concurrency limit for Mac OS runners is 4. So we will absolutely see clogging issues.
I think 1 up. It's
Oh, it's 5?
Yeah.
Maybe it's 5. Okay,
Still.
5. And each job, each PR or merge probably uses 6 or 8 macOS jobs, because we do a bunch. So anytime you merge,
not in parallel, right?
Well, as parallel as they can be.
Okay.
6 do.
Because there's like debug and release builds across a couple OSs. I don't remember. I'd have to go look at it up.
Okay.
So we definitely see a lot of contention on those runners. And part of the issue that we were having was the unified log table is now horrifically slow. So that thing was taking 15 plus minutes per select statement, of which there were like 6 of them in a test.
You started doing this? Is that like a macOS 15 regression? Or?
No, it's been this way for a little while. So I wrote this up into an issue 8454. But I can explain it since we're all sitting here. So the way you access the OS log, which is what the underlying library for the unified logging stuff is through the OS log class, and generally you work in enumerators here, right? So you instantiate an OS log store, you instantiate an enumerator, and then you use your enumeration. When we first built this out, that is exactly what we did. And to try and reduce the impact of working in here, we created this sort of max rows parameter, and we set it to like 100. So what would happen is it would enumerate to 100 rows, and then it would throw the enumerator away. And we assumed, quite reasonably, that that memory would be released. What we then learned through someone reporting a bug was that there's a horrific memory leak in there. Micah actually traced it down so that if you create an enumerator and then do not fully enumerate it, you balloon memory real fast. So this creates this problem where in creating an enumerator to enumerate the log store, you've now hit memory until you enumerate every object, but enumerating every object takes like 15 minutes, even in like a tight loop. I spent a little while nosing around the APIs and thinking really hard this weekend and attempting to find anything on the internet about this. And I could not find anything in the APIs that gave me any rope to free memory. I found one mention on the internet that this problem is real, and someone else, Electric Light, had the same problem, and he threw his hands up and was like, this API is crap, I won't do anything. And I can find no one else who uses it. I thought really hard. I think I see a couple of ways we can fix this. The C++ might be beyond me for it. I don't know yet. But I ended up just kind of doing some ugly things in CI. Like I added some timestamp limits so that it would not search too much space. And there's some magic behavior around -1s in timestamps. So for that one, I just added some components to limit it down the amount it would have to iterate. It's not perfect, but it cut CI runtime down to acceptable enough. I think if we wanted to make this table usable, we need to think pretty hard. I think probably what we have to do is find ways of having much smaller enumerators so that iterating the whole enumeration is cheap, and then kind of stitching the result together, right? So I can imagine setting up enumerators where if you want to select 3 days of logs, under the hood, we're breaking that up into an hour at a time and creating separate enumerators for each hour. I have not yet filed an Apple issue, but I probably should. I built myself a test case.
There's a open radar. Is that, I just pasted it in the link. Is that the one?
I didn't know there was one. So if there is, I'm happy if you found it.
Yeah, it's been there for 1.5 years. So I've run into this like in a private fork, but yeah, there are no solutions that I know of other than that.
That might be legit. That sounds like the same thing. I don't know whether it's the correct diagnosis because I can't peer under the hood. But yeah, that looks like it.
The Eclectic Light blogger he said he was going to file the bug as well, whether he did or not. But it's radar, so it all goes into a black hole unless you put it on open radar.
Yeah. So I think I see how to fix it, but it means kind of sticking an intermediary layer in to not cause this problem. And then on top of that, we have this weird behavior where like the timestamps are floats and we were casting them to ints, which was causing some of the timestamp matching to miss, which Stefano diagnosed and fixed. So, lots of nonsense.
I feel like when this table comes up, people find it insufficient in production, and they all go and use the extension that launches OSLog. That's just been my feeling. I don't know if that's true.
I've also experienced the same thing. People bring it up, doesn't work. It's like, okay, we'll just shell out, write our own extension, or use the one that's already there.
What doesn't work about it for people? What are they trying to do?
I think it's runtime performance that they're bothered by. I think that
And gets deny listed.
yeah.
I also saw another issue where I think I'm not fully understanding what's happening, but it seems we are not getting all the levels. Like we are not really getting all the logs we could get. And sometimes the level is empty. I'm not too familiar if this is expected or not, but I see some, like if I launch log stream, I can see that every log line has a type like info debug error, whatever. But yeah, we only show level default, and there are other log lines with no level. And yeah. And actually, previously, like part of the, I think the not working was exactly that double issue. So previously, we were not casting actually to int; it was kept to double, and SQLite was filtering out all the lines that were not exactly an integer, like exactly 0.0, I believe. I'm not still 100% sure how it ever functioned, because the return string was always like in the form of a decimal. The only thing I can explain myself is that it was returning, it was not filtering those lines where, again, the timestamp in decimal form was 0.0, so no decimal digit. And so, yeah, it was not showing all the lines, and sometimes it was not showing anything.
Well, that was exciting. Thank you, Stefano, and myself. But yeah, I think the unified log table probably still needs work to be really usable. And I don't know how many people are using it, and if anyone really wants to do that work. You know, as I think about it too, I know we have this issue around passing predicates, where like if you pass multiple predicates, it often shows up across multiple generate calls, which is some of what Mike has been tinkering with. And I bet that hits the unified log table real hard. So if you ever did something that caused multiple generate calls to it, you would be extra sad.
Yeah, that would be probably if you use a join. But yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm trying to think though, query with a join with that. Because like the return values change, or well, anyway.
Yeah. Well, I also, so I don't have much else to say about 14.1. Collide has pushed it out to our beta fleet, but you know, it's only been a day, so I don't know what's going on yet. Oh, and I guess thank you, Fleet, for making our release notes for this one. Lucas put up that PR. We had a bunch of security issues. Issues is a strong word, I'm sorry. Alerts for Yara, expat, and libarchive. Mike, I think you started looking at them. What was your conclusion?
Yeah. I'm on Hackpad. I don't know if my notes are visible. Did you? When I went into edit mode, did it share them? Did it?
Yes, they're in here. I just thought you could say it instead of
Okay.
reading it aloud.
Yes. Just wanted to make sure because I thought I was maybe the only one editing, and I wanted to make sure I didn't somehow generate a local copy. Okay, so the Yara bug is one that we addressed years ago, and it has come up twice since. So I think the last time it was marked as being like an NVD problem that this thing keeps getting reported to us. I don't know where that problem lies in our reporting system. I thought we could ignore those, like we mark them as ignore.
Yeah, though it's not indefinite, since you still like it's a API issue where you have to. We are basically looping all the issues that we get. There's not enough filtering basically happening. You have to filter like locally, and to avoid looking too back in the future, I think it is currently looking back 6 months or so. So every 6 months, it might be like, even if you close it and ignore it, if it's still present on the MVD, it will.
Yeah, it seems to return every periodically, and that
Can
sounds
we-
about right.
Can we ignore? We're looking for 6 months in the Osquery issues.
For all of the dependencies
Yeah.
that exist, like they don't know anything about what's in Osquery. We have to.
No. But I mean, the thing that opens issues is a script that we wrote.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So is it that is only looking at 6 months?
Yeah.
So we could tweak that maybe.
Um,
Could we though? It sounds like the issue is that the vulnerability is not correctly dated or something.
or actually, sorry, no, I was, when times passes, I forget what I how it works and what I did. So I think we have not ignored it, because it should. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was thinking. No, so the 6 months looking. I mean, it looks 6 months back to see if it has already opened it. Yes, but there's also the ignoring part, which is actually done when it is downloading the CVs from the MVD. And I think we have not ignored that specific CV. So
we
do that. It should be.
we could add the CVE into the ignore list,
Yes. Sorry.
or we could update the search to be longer than 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I guess the quicker way is to just ignore it.
Yeah, in our script, right?
Yeah, put it in the manifest, the JSON manifest.
I think, yeah, there's some file that Stefano left for that.
And the libraries folder. Yeah. It's a base one like, yeah, the idea was you can eventually maybe construct an S-bomb from that, but yeah.
And this is the only issue. This is the only CVE that keeps coming back like this, right?
Yeah.
I guess I don't understand why this one only. Is it because there's something missing from the NVD database entry, like some sort of
It's
filter field?
no, my understanding is that they have the starting version, they have filed that in is incorrect, and so it includes also our version.
Okay, so ostensibly in the future, if we get beyond that version,
Yeah, that's so. Yeah,
may
three
not
options.
exist yet, but
Yeah.
okay. So we could definitely ignore it in our scripts, and then separately we could ask the NVD to fix their entry. I just don't know how to do that second thing.
I think we should just ignore it. I don't think we should try and get NVD to fix things.
Yeah, aren't they like overwhelmed and really behind or something?
I'm just cynical.
Well, not many people talk about this Libyara CVE because if you Google it, you come back to our Osquery get issue. Okay, so
Yeah. Sorry.
oh, sorry, just wanted to know if we wanted to talk about the next of the CVEs. Did you have something more to say?
Oh, sorry, but go ahead.
No, if you had something more to say about Libyara, please.
Yeah, no, it was just a comment on, yeah, that CV is, it was an issue when you are calling, like when you are taking in a configuration for the Yara, like Yara itself, and calling that Yara set configuration call. But in our specific case, even if that was still active, like the only way input can be passed there is through the config file of Osquery. So you would have bigger issues. And I'm not even sure, like, it would be anyway quite limited what you can do, like what you can pass as an input.
Yeah, we interestingly, like when we get subsequent issues or CVEs and third-party dependencies, we a lot of times have already kind of determined the impact. So I wonder if collecting those somewhere, like maybe in the security document that we have, would be any use. And maybe not. Maybe it's a exercise for nobody in particular. But anyway, when we look at these, a lot of times the answer, if it's impacting us or not, is in the previous closed bug issues.
Is it? But is it? If it's a new, I think. Okay, so if I wanted to think about this from a workflow perspective, right? The workflow is probably a CVE is created, and then we have to understand if the CVE affects us. And oftentimes the answer is, no, we don't use that functionality. That isn't really a thing that affects us, right? So what we should do is we should either upgrade just because we can upgrade, or we should create a PR that adds it to the ignored list. And in the PR, we can say, okay, we evaluated this and we don't think we don't use this functionality. Ignore the CVE and close this issue. Right?
Those are the two common results. Yeah, basically, it's 99% of the time it's going to be one of those. And then the Libyara thing, the solution is probably to fix to add a special ignore case.
Well, but it's not special. It's just baked into the tooling we have, right? And I would say
I didn't know how to. I didn't actually know how to add an ignore in a normal sense because I never do it. But if it's the same way, then
almost no one does.
Yeah.
So I linked to the file in chat. Right. So that is a list of the libraries that we use, and under each library is an array of ignored CVEs.
Okay, well, I thought that we would have added the ignore CVE the last time we came across this particular CVE. Did we just close the issue and not?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did close the issue. I thought that they, in 6 months or whatever, they would fix it, but yeah, apparently they did not.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, Mike, if you feel like you can say why they don't matter, can I just PR something into the third-party libraries? Flag it as fixing all the open things.
Well, it's the solution for this one. The other two, I lean the other way, which is we're going to probably update the affected library, but the impact is low or none. So that's 3 CVEs for expat, 3 CVEs for libarchive. Same deal for each one. We've looked at these before, and each time we said like, okay, we only use this slice of the functionality, and it's to talk to a trusted component in the OS. Or we don't even use, like, for instance, decompression. We only create compression archives, so therefore we're not affected. Even still, there's no reason not to update the dependency. So
I mean, my
that's what
inclination would be to ignore the CVEs so that we don't have like security things sitting and lingering, looking open. And then if we also want to update the library, cool. But that's just because I know how to update and ignore CVEs, and I don't think I'm technically able to update one of the libraries we use.
I did it, I think, once or twice before. All my notes got lost at the Trail of Bits laptop, but the process should be documented in the libraries folder for each of the individual library dependencies. I think you need a Linux machine to do the tool chain. Is that right?
I mean, well, yeah. In this case, you would need all the 3 machines, like macOS, like several machines, like
yeah,
Linux
that right now,
x86, so. Linux, ARM64, macOS, both, and Windows.
Okay.
It's a lot easier to ignore
one, but yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of you know, what it means to have these open issues, I suppose it's not a problem if we've done the triage already and said like no urgency here. And if anyone was interested, they could see that triage comment. But I think that the main urgency is driven by customers who run products against Osquery and somehow statically analyze the dependencies inside it and come up with, you know, incorrect conclusions about exposure.
Right, but I mean, our answer may be, well, we have evaluated that and we don't think it applies, and here's the issue and PR where we said why.
Yeah, well, I mean, that will still happen until we update those dependencies, whether or not it was ever legitimate exposure.
Right, but if we can point at here's the PR where we have done our analysis triage, and you can search our issues for the CVE just as well as we can, like, people will do that.
Right. Yeah, yeah, and then they have to, you know, go to their admin and tell them that they need an exception for this scan, and that, you know, that's the process that exists. But yeah, it doesn't matter if we close the issue or resolve it by updating the either way, they have to go and look at the issue.
They can submit a PR.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the roundup for the CVEs.
Thank you for digging out the triage and doing that work.
Actually, pretty easy because Stefano had already done all the analysis last time. Thank you, Stefano.
No, thank you both. Other things people want to talk about?
I have a question about the CI. So it looks like we run it every 6 hours, just on a schedule on the master branch. Is that constrained in any way by like, does it run regardless of whether any changes or any commits have been pushed to master branch?
I think, don't we only do that for the ARM64 builds?
Just doing what? Sorry.
The 6 hour runs?
Oh, no. It's both x86 and the ARM64. The idea was simply well, having something repeated that will, well, first of all, help us catch earlier when there are breakages, and often it helps if one looks at them, like when the runner images are updated or things like that. And the other was to repeat multiple times the test execution, because I mean, hello. Because I think it's a good practice to continue running the tests once in a while, and yeah, it's not a guarantee that if they have succeeded once, they will continue to succeed. So yeah.
Do you think it's worth? I mean, I don't know where Mike was going, but I wonder if we should dial down the frequency.
Yeah, where I was going was, yeah, why not add a constraint that says every 6 hours if there's been a change in the branch, if there's been a commit since the last run. Otherwise, skip this one. Just reduces contention in the CI.
Stefano pointed out that there's value in ensuring that CI keeps passing in the face of GitHub runner changes.
We have found several flaky and sometimes issues thanks to that.
Oh, and even a 6 hour rerun.
Sorry,
I wonder about just making it every 2 days.
I mean, every 12 hours, anything that would maybe not like multiple times a workday, like possibly get in the way. That's my suggestion, but I'm open to. I mean, just start bringing this up as a consideration.
Yeah, no, definitely. I guess I wanted to do that. Is there an hour? You should like kind of plot when everyone is working the most. Yeah, trying to like you can run once a day, for instance, and then but choose an hour where there's low traffic, so there's even less chance of collisions.
I mean, if it was once a day, that would already be a reduction. But I think with the team here, I guess, you know, midnight and midnight West Coast or something of the US would pretty much get it out of the way. But I don't know. Sharper would have to tell me.
I mostly sort of work East Coast EU hours, so it wouldn't, you know, get in my way. But
I mean, I should also say that, like, for a long time until we merged that PR for the unified log, the main, like, I think, issue was exactly that the tests were taking in total an hour or more, and like the whole run for a single macOS was an hour and a half. And so yes, that compounds quite a lot, and so right now we should be back to like three times that the concurrency is sort of.
I think it's probably worth looking at lowering the scheduled test frequency. I'm just not convinced we're getting high value out of running it every 6 hours.
Yeah, it's a trade-off, and it seems like maybe we would like to rebalance that trade-off.
Agreed.
My other question was if we could change the name of the workflows, because it's really confusing to look at them for the first time in a while and realize that the build x86 workflow actually builds ARM, and then it also runs the tests, and the build AR64 is specifically, well, you know, it's the self-hosted runners that I don't know if we need them anymore. Do we? We still need them for some kind of Linux, right?
GitHub now has ARM64 runners, but I don't think we have done the work of porting to using them instead of our AWS runners. So I think that there is some value and work in revisiting our CI and just renaming and seeing if we can, renaming things to something that feels sensible and moving them to run in GitHub's runners instead of our runners.
Okay. Okay, that was just a comment. And then I guess the last question I had about CI was, I was going to help someone with the matrix of supported OSs and tested OSs, and it looks like, correct me if I'm wrong, we build on Mac OS 14 and 15, and then we package the tests and also test but don't build on Mac OS 12, right?
Sounds
Yes.
believable.
Okay. And then it's not built on x86 and CI, it's only tested on x86 now for Mac. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
But it is a universal binary. And
Correct. Okay. Just checking that was true. All right. I have no further questions about CI.
I would support any untangling that you want to do here.
A comment for the Linux ARM run. I mean, just why it was like that. I think originally the objective was to make it work on the Graviton, specifically on the Graviton architecture, and so like that's why we were provisioning.
It was the only thing that existed.
And also
There was no
yeah.
other ARM64 machines when we implemented that.
Well,
Oh, I understand the history of it. Does AWS cost someone here money? That
It
GitHub
cost me money.
would that make a difference to you to move that to the GitHub Actions are free for public repos, right?
So the current cost of our AWS bill is actually very small, and probably most of the cost of it is borne in people directly accessing the S3 bucket. At some point, I will implement a brownout strategy to see who is accessing our AWS bucket, because we don't support that. The current bill to me personally is small enough. It is kind of within my noise, it's below my noise threshold. I think the big win in moving ARM64 out of AWS and into GitHub is just in terms of making it simpler and the fewer moving parts that we have. So right now it's very hard because it's like we're spinning up runners in AWS. We have to have an AWS account. It's complicated, right? So if that's just inside GitHub, we cut out a lot of complexity. So I think reducing complexity has more value than cost here. I think the AWS runners are in the realm of like $10 or $20 a month.
Okay. Not bad.
So, but I think the complexity factor is very high. So I'm in favor of removing complexity. Anyone want to talk about anything else? Or would you all like 14 minutes back?
My son wants it back.
One question, sort of a meta question. Can last week's office hours be posted to YouTube? Please, because I missed it and I want to catch up on it.
I think there was no recording. We
Okay.
talked about
Okay, perfect then.
internal
Was I there?
Yeah, we talked about
Oh, that's right. We
internal
talked about potential security vulnerabilities unless we kept it closed. Yeah. Conclusion was no security vulnerability. I can probably fill you in Slack if you want more context. You're muted, but it looks like you're happy.
Yeah, I'll ping you if I need it, but I was just searching for it because I usually catch up on the week I missed, but I couldn't find it. So
We should maybe at least add that to an agenda for last week. Okay. People want to talk about anything else? Okay, in that case, thank you all for all the things you do. Code, knowledge, PRs, issues, everything else. I hope you have a wonderful remainder of your Octobers.
thanks all. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.